Hello and welcome. Thank you everyone for being here. We'll get started in a few minutes as we let a few more people trickle in. If you want to go ahead and say in the chat, if you see that off to the side, the chat button, where you are joining from across the country, across the world, we'd love to see where you're here from. So thanks again for being here. We'll get started in a few minutes. Hey, thanks everybody for being here. We're going to go ahead and get started. I know people are still trickling in. We want to start our conversation to make sure we wrap up on time. Thank you again for being here. This is our Concussion Legacy Foundation webinar, Moms and Concussion, Patient and Caregiver Support. My name is Julia Manning. I am the Chief of Staff and Communications here at CLF. Also a member of the concussion community. So don't know my story. I hit my head on a countertop in the kitchen 6 years ago and developed post-concussion syndrome from there. And so I certainly know we're going to hear a lot of different stories today, and we know we can suffer concussions in all sorts of ways. I'm not a mother myself, but I can certainly relate to the experience of feeling like you're completely alone, feeling like you have to be the only person that's ever experienced this really difficult, debilitating injury that no one can see and is really hard to make sense of. So I hear you all. If you're coming here as patients, if you're here as caregivers, thank you for everything you've done to support your loved one, and for just being here to want to learn more is such a really important step. So we know we have people kind of joining us from all different experiences. And we're really focused ahead of Mother's Day on the experience of mothers. So both as the concussion patient themselves and as caregivers to children who have suffered concussions. And we have three brave women joining us today who are going to share their stories. We're so excited for you to get to know Allison, Marie, and Tammy and hear a bit about their experiences, what helps them cope, and most importantly, their messages of hope. Because I know we can all use that dose of hope as we're trying to wade the waters here of concussion recovery. Before we get to those conversations, just a few housekeeping notes that I want to make sure I get to. If you do have questions that come up during these conversations that you'd really love answered, please put them in the Q&A box. You can find that at the bottom of your screen where it says Q&A. You just click that and add your question there, and we'll do our best to get to it. Second, I do want to let you know, I know this is kind of a busy time in the afternoon. If you have to run, we do record these webinars, and we'll be sending it out via email to anyone who registered. We also post the full link on our YouTube page and many of the parts of the webinar kind of on our social media channels. So if you don't already follow us on social, we'd love to have you as part of our community there. And we're very often sharing different resources, and we'll be sharing specific resources from this webinar as well. Finally, we will touch on this very often through the webinar, but again, if you do have to leave early, it's really important to our team here at CLF that you know about the CLF helpline. This is our free resource to help anyone who is suffering concussion symptoms, suspected CTE, going through PCS and really not knowing where to turn. We have a phenomenal team that can get you set up. They're going to give you one-on-one support and a lot of personalized resources to help you through your recovery. So do not hesitate to shoot us a line at clfhelpline.org. There's a form on the webpage there that you can fill out, and our team will be happy to help you. So with that, it's time to get to our first guest, and I'm really honored to introduce Allison Moir-Smith. She joins us from Manchester by the Sea, Massachusetts. For more than 20 years, Allison has worked as a counselor specializing with brides and grooms who are preparing them for their big day. You might have seen her on the Today Show or maybe even Good Morning America. But she's not here to talk to us about preparing for a big day. She's really here to share her experience with concussion that changed her life, and her recovery journey that really led her to helping fellow mothers with similar experiences and being such a wonderful leader in this space. So Allison, thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, I'm so happy. I love CLF and happy to be here. Thanks for having me and organizing this for us.
Yeah, absolutely. I do really want to start back in 2017 with that first concussion that you share about that happened when you were skiing with your family.
Mhm.
So I know after that you were told, like many of us, and I'm sure many on this webinar can relate to, like, hey, just go rest for a few days. It's a concussion. There's not really anything we can do. Chill out. You'll be good, right? Um, After hearing that and after not feeling all good after those few days of resting, I would just love to hear what that looked for like for you, those first few weeks of starting to manage, like, okay, I don't feel right. My brain is really foggy and I'm having to, manage all the responsibilities of being a mother. And I didn't even say this in the intro, but I know you have two children, and I'd love it if you could walk us through kind of that first few weeks after the first concussion.
Yeah, I went to the doctor 5 days after my fall, and she said, "You got a concussion, just go home and rest," which of course is not current protocol. My kids were 11 and 13 at the time. And the thing about concussed motherhood is that kids don't stop growing and needing, of course. So the first few weeks when I was super impaired, I noticed something was really off when I was trying to back into a parking spot to pick up a whole bunch of kids for carpool, because that's what I had to do. And I couldn't fit between the lines. So I knew something was seriously wrong, but I didn't have the bandwidth to actually tell somebody.
Mm.
But I distinctly remember this. And then, of course, I put a bunch of kids in my car. We live in a tiny town. You don't go more than 20 miles an hour. It was okay. But that was a frightening moment. Um, what the first weeks, months, 8 months were: wake up, get the two kids ready, fed, dressed, find the stuff, get them out the door, and rest.
Mm.
Spend the rest of the day resting for really 4 months straight. And on my website there, I wasted $4,000 in Google Ads because I couldn't figure out how to ask my husband just to turn them off for me. So this is the fog I lived in. So 4 months, I would get the kids up and out with my husband, and I'd rest underneath the blanket because I had light and noise sensitivity. And that was obviously the worst thing to do, be underneath the blanket with a hat and sunglasses, but no one was giving me guidance.
Right. And what guidance, now that you've lived through that really awful kind of fog, what guidance do you have to other mothers who might be in that phase of, like you talked about, you have those moments where you're like, "Oh, that's really scary. I know that's not right. I know I'm not, but I don't quite know what to do about it." Um,
What I wish I had done from the start, I didn't know about CLF till I started feeling better, because I couldn't tolerate screens, and that's the conundrum of concussion. What I wish I had done was get my husband into the PCS
mm,
caregiver support group. That could have changed everything for us, where he would have been more educated. He would have seen what was normal and what was abnormal. He would have learned what options were possible for my care, because I couldn't do it. I'm I'm the advocate in our family. I'm the one who calls the doctors and makes myself difficult and gets us an appointment the next day. That's me. It's not his style. So my suggestion for mothers who are going through that: get whoever your primary caregiver is into the PCS support group and contact them, contact CLF for your support and information.
that's such great advice, because you need the people around you to really be clued in on this and be able to walk with you every step of the way. Right.
Yeah,
So,
we were flying blind for years. It's terrible.
yeah.
And part of the reason why I do all this, Julia, is I have support. I have health insurance. I have resources. And if I can't access care,
Yeah.
Mass General, 40 minutes away, has already cured me of cancer. And if I can't access care, there's real problems.
Hmm. Yes. Yeah, 100%. And that's part of the gap that we're trying to close with the helpline, and appreciate you getting the word out about it. But yeah, great point about the getting the loved ones in your life clued in, get them in some support groups, and be that advocate for you, because when you have that brain injury, it's just nearly impossible to be an advocate for yourself. So thank you for sharing that and kind of moving along with your story. And this part devastates me, but what I understand, you get the accident skiing, you're in those months of darkness, but you start getting in a groove again, feeling a little bit better. And then you suffer another concussion, which is something I can relate to because something very similar happened with me almost 8 months after the first one. Then you get it again. And it's that feeling. I remember being like, I can't do this again. Like, absolutely not. This cannot be happening again. And so I'm curious, when you thought maybe some of those symptoms might be in the rear view, what that was like for you emotionally to have to go through that again. And when did you really realize like this is not going to be just a few months situation? I'm kind of in this for the long haul with PCS.
So the second concussion happened 10 months after the first. I was feeling a little better, well enough that I wanted to play some basketball with my son because he was 12. And we played a game called Knockout, not a great name, but I was so happy. My family was happy to see me energized and on the court. But one hit to the head and straight to the emergency room I went this time, and yet still got the same advice, just to rest. It was really depressing for all of us, just sorely depressing to be back in that place.
Mm.
My kids call the first year of concussion just weird. They say it was just a weird time of living in the dark, and everyone got a bit depressed when it happened again. And I felt so guilty and responsible for putting us back into that dark, weird place again.
Mm. And I'm curious, it's probably really difficult to nail down the most challenging part of that experience. But if you could, what was the most difficult to you from having PCS is hard enough, but having it and being a mother?
Well, the hardest part was not just the functioning, because that's hard. As motherhood, I was going through preparing for this. Their appointments don't stop. They still need the dentist, the orthodontist, the doctor. They still need the costumes for the plays and the cleats that they grow out of, and the this and the play dates, and their social lives don't stop. So I, what helped me get through was trying to make their lives as normal as possible. But at the same time, I went further and further and further down on the list. I was trying to make my impact on my family smaller and smaller. But as a result, I became smaller and smaller as a human being. I became more and more depressed. The less care, I still haven't gotten care at this point, the more impaired I got, the worse I felt as a human being. So it was this ping pong between feeling really happy that I could get them to their events and their lives were somewhat normal, and then quite depressed about who I was as a human being and my lack of participation in my family life in the world. I mean, I would show up and I'd be there, but I was weird for years. I was weird in ways, the verbal stuff that happens at night to all of us. I would say weird things, and my kids were old enough, but what they all three told me is that it was helpful that I laughed at myself, that I would say something really ridiculous and that I laughed, and that it made it safe for them to laugh at/with me. My older daughter, who was 13 plus at the time, thought that really helped. My husband agreed. My son, who was younger, said it was helpful, but it was really weird because if your brain was right, we wouldn't be laughing about this stuff. So for him, it was a double-edged sword. But humor definitely helped my family get through.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. That feeling of like almost being a shell inside of yourself is so, so challenging. And I'm so happy that you did make it through, but I'm sorry that you had to experience that in the first place. And I have a feeling from those dark times and feeling so small might have been a bit of your motivator to seek out other moms and start your journey with the support group. But I'd love to hear from you what that was like of like, hey, we got to get together and we got to be talking about this.
Yeah, I finally got on Instagram and found that when I was feeling well enough, and found that their support groups existed, So I would attend whoever would open the door, I would attend. I attended a bunch, and some of them people were too young, some of the people were too old, all of them were very nice. And even all 100% women's group that I attended that changed so much from my experience. I made friends and it was warm and it was cozy. There'd be 6 of us in the group, and one was another mother. The other four would go, oh my God, I'm so tired after this. I'm gonna take a nap and rest all afternoon. And the mother and I would kind of look at each other and going, so what do you have? Because we had pick up and we had sports and we had play dates and we had cookies to make and we had probably work to do and we had laundry, 3 loads of laundry, and which is upstairs to the basement and upstairs to the basement and sorting for. So that was a point where I realized moms don't nap after group. So we needed our own. And so I asked a friend of mine, I was still too impaired to lead it, a friend of mine to lead it. She started it off and then she had another health incident. So I took it over, and it's a powerful thing, our group. We need each other. We help each other. And my favorite thing that came out of last week's group was someone was seeing their PT, and the PT said, oh yeah, moms take a lot longer to heal than everybody else. Yes, we do, because we don't stop. And it was strangely confirming after 7 years to have some professionals say, yeah, collectively, you guys have it much harder. Just felt really confirming.
Oh, I'm so glad. And I know the group has been such a positive for so many. And I'm curious what you would tell people, or if you can share more about what those meetings look like for people who might be on the call that want to join. Might be support groups can be really hard for people, and you might not be ready to share, or you don't want to take the step if you don't know anybody. What can you tell people about what they can expect?
We begin each group, and there are usually between around 15 of us on there from all over the world, from Europe to Oakland, California, and everywhere in between. We begin each group with a 15-minute question and answer. I interview a mom about her concussion experience, and we have the same set of questions basically every time. And you get to know one person's story. After that point, we open up to sharing, and people give warmth and congratulations and feedback and questions. And then the conversation moves as it needs to. Some people have their screens off because their eyes aren't ready for it, or they have babies in the background and they're busy. So babies are welcome. Just keep your screen off. It's powerful. Next month, we're talking about, 2 moms will be sharing about what it's like to be in concussion recovery with neurodiverse kids and the different challenges that provides. And I'm still remembering some of their tips from last week that they shared. We talk about marriages, we talk about sex lives, we talk about mostly mothering and how to plan and pace, because we really need to pace our days as mothers in a totally different way, because once they're home from school, we're off.
Thank you. We're going to drop all the information we're talking about the Concussed Mom support group, by the way. I don't know if I explicitly said that. It's a group that Allison leads for other concussed moms. You can find all the information in the chat for those who want to know when it meets, want to sign up and try it out, and hear from Allison and the next person that we're going to interview. But Allison, before I let you go, we really like to end all these segments just kind of on a note of hope. And I am curious, what your message of hope is to other moms who are here. And it can be really easy to get in a place where you feel like you're never going to get better.
Yeah.
What's your
We
message?
talk so much about guilt in our group. And someone finally said to me, we need to stop talking just about guilt. We need to add more hope. So that's also something that's been something new we've added more and more of. The message of hope I end each group on is this. Your kids, here's the question to ask yourself. Are you giving your family your absolute best every single day? My guess is yes. Some days that looks like just sitting on the couch under a blanket with your child, but that's your absolute best. And if you are present with your child feels your love. Your kids can always feel your love. And I hope that's an antidote to the guilt. And I hope that brings hope.
That was beautiful, Allison. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you for being here on the webinar today and for all you do for this community. And leading the group. And Allison is also a wonderful resource over on Instagram. We're going to put her Instagram handle in the chat as well. If you want to shoot her a follow, I know she would love to hear you and welcome any direct messages there. So thank you so much, Allison. We
Thank you,
appreciate it.
CLF. I love all that you do.
Thank you. And now we're very excited to have another member of that Concussed Mom support group who met Allison through the group and was able to find a lot of that support, so can give us another perspective on the group. Marie Cløigaard joining us. So Marie, thank you for being here. She's joining us all the way from Denmark. So it's really incredible to have an international presence, both in CLF and on the webinar here today. And Marie, I'd love to start out and just hear, a little bit about your TBI experience and, the accident that caused that concussion back in 2019.
Thank you for having me. Basically, I found this online group and it genuinely changed my life. So I will answer anything. Basically, I was about to move from my house in England to my new home in Denmark. And I was moving with the speed that only a mother can when she's stressed, has to do something, and has to deliver the keys to her house. And, oh, by the way, move, country and boxes and, oh God. I was cleaning the floor in the kitchen and I stood up with aforementioned speed and I smashed the back of my head into the corner of a cupboard, like right there, which is, the lizard brain. And the fun thing about brain injury, as we know, is it's a big old pile of jelly. You don't just hit the back of your head, everything gets shaken. And I didn't have time to stop. So I just carried on, but I did knock myself out for 45 minutes, an hour and a half.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know. I just curled up into a ball, like fetal position. I could feel my tongue going numb. And I just remember thinking, I've hurt myself. I need to put ice on something. Oh, but I can't because I've just de-iced the freezer. And then I fell asleep in a ball. And that was it. So that was my last thought, was I de-iced the freezer. So don't clean the kitchen floor is the moral of my story. Don't, it's so dangerous. Just leave it, let it get disgusting.
Oh, it looks like we might have lost.
Oh, I'm back.
Oh, you're back. You're back.
We have bubbles in the internet today over here.
Oh dear.
I'm sorry.
No, you're back, and we heard your lesson about cleaning the floor, so I think everyone's off the hook now. No cleaning of the floor.
No.
Good to go.
But I wasted a huge amount of guilt on thinking, if I just had maybe cleaned that floor yesterday, if I just hadn't been moving quite so fast and remembered that cupboard was there. I spent so long just thinking, oh, this is all my fault. I've lost my health and my energy because I wasn't good enough a mother and I wasn't a good enough person. And I wasted so long on that until there was a wonderful woman who I met sort of on a completely sideways thing. And she said, you didn't wish this on yourself. And she gave me this fantastic idea of, you haven't stood there with a hammer and bashed the back of your head in and gone, yes, I want a concussion and I want to ruin my life. And it was when I got that thing of, well, yeah, it was just a stupid accident, but they do happen. Just that freeing image of saying, okay, you know what? It's okay, it's an accident, and yeah, we have to live with it, but I put the guilt away because that's all you can do. At some point, you have to put it down. You do find a good way to put it down eventually. Find a good support group. We can help you with that.
Oh, I'm so glad you were able to do that and be able to have that moment of like, yeah, this wasn't my fault. I didn't want this to happen. That's so important. And could you share with us from your perspective? I know we heard it from Allison, and you might have a lot of similarities there, but what did you find to be the unique challenges of recovering from this brain injury while being a mother?
I had no time, absolutely no time for a concussion. I had to move. Life doesn't stop. I had to find a new kindergarten for my kid. I had to find a new job. By the way, that didn't work out because I had a concussion. but also the complete lack of information about it. I mean, the only experience I had with a concussion was James Bond. He gets hit over the head and he jumps back up and carries on. And, you know, coming from a parent's point of view, unless, you know, you've just lost a leg, like the family's ahead, your leg's just fallen off and you're going, oh, don't worry, I'll be there. And you carry on jumping. You don't complain about the leg. The same thing with the concussion. You don't complain that everything hurts and everything's difficult and your feet don't feel like they're touching the floor and words aren't happening. You just think, I must try twice as hard or even harder because I'm not good enough. So that's one of the problems, the lack of information and the time you just don't have to get better.
Right. You don't have the luxury of just being like, okay, well, I will take 3 months and do every single thing right and sleep as much as I want. And no, you know, you can't do that. I am curious though to learn, and I know it's always a journey and there's some symptoms that just don't seem to want to go away, but what you did find to be helpful, because I know we can hear these really awful stories and then see people on webinars seem to be doing great. And it's like, wait, what? What did they do? How did they get there? Like, I that doesn't seem like it's a reality for me. So could you share anything that did help you?
One of the things was finding things that help. I call it stretching my elastic. So part of the issues were memory things. So my sensitivity to light meant I ran around with sunglasses and a cap on. I kept forgetting the sunglasses. I kept forgetting the cap. So eventually my sensitivity to light, just I stretched that elastic enough because I just had to get used to it. But the other thing was that my social life just went down the drain because you can't go out, you're too tired. But I desperately needed something. And now I've moved over to Denmark and my dad had found a local gospel choir. It is literally down the road. Yes, we have gospel in Denmark. It's great fun. And I found out that by singing in a choir, I got so many needs met. I got my social need met, which you so need. And I got my need to stretch my sound sensitivity. I got that stretched by listening to other people make noise, but also when I was making the noise, it wasn't my sensitivity that got really upset. Somehow helped, but to be able to make beautiful music with someone, with other people, and have that joy. And we are a very, very sweet group of people. You know, we're never angry at each other if we sing a wrong note. We're not professional, but finding that ability to, you know, hit so many birds with one stone, that was so good for me because time is so precious and you have so little of those good hours. That really helped. That yeah, lack of time also helped because you get very, very good at cutting people out of your life that don't give anything good. So you become your own best advocate. And art, obviously, that helped. That's a fantastic trainer for my fine motor control, but also my sense of self-worth, because your mental health will take a nosedive. It will become very fragile when you feel awful every day. And you may think that, I mean, with me, I've had PTSD, I've had depression, I've kicked both of them as much down as they're ever going to go. There's always going to be shadows of these things, but after I hit my head, I had to redo all that work because my challenges were new and I was tired all the time. All of these things, it wears you down. So those things helped. Re-looking at, you know, mental health and where I was and what I was thinking about myself, that really did help and was crucial. So things like that, but you do need to re-find who you are. You do need to re-establish an identity, but don't forget who you are. I struggled with that for a long time, this idea of, but I'm not that person. I can't do what I used to be able to do. And that's an awful feeling to lose who you are. And don't let that be your reality, because there will be things that you can draw from your past pre-concussion self and put them into your future. And in some ways, it just narrows your focus and goes, okay, you know what? I'm going to do the thing that makes me the most happy, the thing I really want to do, you know, that one on the bucket list that you really want to do. I'm going to do that because I may get hit by a bus tomorrow. You really do get very good at getting that energy and focusing it. But you do also have to remember you exist and you need to do this for yourself. That's another thing.
That was really powerful. Thank you so much for sharing, and so brave of you to try those new things, and especially the gospel choir. That really stuck with me, knowing the noise sensitivity. Like, you could not catch me anywhere near that. And I think it's so amazing that you went for it and it ended up being such a positive in your recovery. So thank you for sharing that. I know that's going to help a lot of people, that message that you just shared. And I think the mental health piece too, one of the important components there, right, is seeking out that support and having other people that can understand you, and that leads to you finding the Concussed Moms group. And I'm wondering if you can share kind of what that has meant for you to be able to connect with other moms who really get it.
For other mothers, I finally found people who validated my experience. For years, I had just gone through this going, I'm not good enough. I am failing so hard at everything. Why can't I just pull myself together? And then to find this group, and I don't know if it was the algorithm that finally worked for me. And I think it was one of Allison's posts I found. And I went, oh my God, there's a group for us? Wow. And then to come along, and I found strength. I found myself in these other wonderful women. And also I found that incredibly powerful feeling of being able to give back and lift other people, because I know I have amazing people around me. And I've always felt that joy and love around me. And I want to give that back to other people, because I know not everyone has a fantastic network. And certainly we don't have the information. We don't. So to say, hey, yeah, your experience is right. You know, this sucks and it should suck. No one can tell you that. Well, they shouldn't be telling you, oh, just get back up. Oh, just go out and find a job. Oh, I heard about this other person who bumped their head and they were straight back to work after 2 weeks. There are so many people out there with misinformation. And unfortunately, that's the first sort of thing that'll catch you. And you have to fight through that, find the reality. And not everything's going to work for you. In fact, that's one of the other challenges, all these therapies that people talk about. Maybe it's not going to work for you. And you have to be there with it all the time and try and remember it all now.
Yeah, that can be so challenging. I'm so happy that you did find Allison's post and were able to find the group, and now other members of the group can learn from you and have your wisdom to help make a positive in their lives too. So I think that's really beautiful. And I am wondering, kind of in closing, I know you shared some amazing advice about what helped you. You know, what is your kind of message for hope that you would offer for other mothers that are going through this experience?
In some ways, I think I wish I could talk to myself 5 years ago. The mother who was falling down the stairs because her balance was gone. And when I tried to write, it just looked like squashed spiders, and the words were missing sometimes, or the letters were backwards. That complete loss of identity, it will go away. You will find yourself again. You can retrain so many things. The swelling and all of this that's happened in your brain will calm down. I'm not going to say it's all going to come back, but small things will get better and better, until suddenly you're able to run up and down the stairs without a wobble. Your handwriting will look like handwriting again, and not just very sad insects that had a bad day. And you also learn to ration your energy in a way that will make you stronger, that you didn't realize you could do. You will, like iron passing through a forge and turning into steel, you will get stronger. This is it. Your reality is it sucks in the beginning, but it does get better, and I promise you that. And we're here.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Marie, for joining us. That was really so wonderful. And if all anyone takes from this webinar today, it's that message that you will get better and it is going to be okay. So thank you so much. Really, really appreciate you joining us all the way from Denmark. Really incredible to have you here.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you. I see you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, kind of moving on from a different perspective as we speak about mothers in the concussion journeys. We just heard from Marie and Allison, themselves having suffered concussions. And now we're going to welcome Tammy Lowell, who has walked through this with her child, had a child who suffered a concussion and had post-concussion syndrome. So before we get into our conversation with Tammy, we just want to show a piece of a video that we worked on back in 2020, I believe, with the Lowell family, so you can get to know a bit about Tammy and her amazing daughter, Kylie.
I've sustained 3 lifelong concussions. All have been involved in sports. The one that really triggered my PCS was my second concussion in my 8th grade year. I was in basketball. I fell backwards and hit my head on the gym floor. My symptoms were really bad: extreme fatigue, headaches, light and noise sensitivity, slow rate of processing, memory issues, anxiety, depression, irritability. I felt like anytime I had my eyes open, I was in pain.
Watching her daily activities become, like the simple things, become so difficult, and this vibrant, social, outgoing, incredibly athletic, happy girl having these symptoms of pain and irritability, and you start to not recognize your child, and it was really one of the most difficult things I've ever been through as a parent.
We had never heard of post-concussion syndrome before, so the only resource we know to go to is a typical doctor that anyone would see for any type of sports injury. And we had been searching for so long, and I felt like I was advocating for myself against family, friends, adults, and doctors, and no one was listening.
I still felt like Kylie needed some additional support, our family needed support, and that's when I tapped into the CLF helpline. And I told my story, I filled out the form, and I hit send, and immediately I had a response from Mike. He said, look, we're gonna help you, it's gonna be okay. But it was the best feeling in the world to know that there was some sort of support. At that point, he said, I'm gonna put you in touch with Carrie and Aaron Payne.
When I met Kylie and Tammy, it was like looking in the mirror. She was just going through exactly what I went through.
To meet them, for me, was amazing. I had never met someone else with PCS, or even better, around my age, and I could just tell from the beginning that they cared about my story. I just felt way less alone.
To sit across the table at probably our lowest point throughout this experience, and to see a mom and a daughter, and to see Aaron flourishing and healing, I knew at that moment that there was some sort of hope we hadn't felt in a while.
Thank you, Tammy, again for sharing the story. I know we will drop a link in the chat if you want to watch kind of the whole piece. That was just a segment of it, but certainly got to know a little bit of Tammy's story there. That was her daughter, Kylie, who you heard her say, suffered a concussion in 8th grade that led to the PCS. And we're so grateful they were able to find the CLF helpline, and we were able to connect them with some peer support. And we're so happy to have Tammy join us here from Massachusetts. Hi, Tammy.
Hi there. Thank you so much for having me and following 2 remarkable moms. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. And I think we want to start. I know it's been a while since we filmed that video and have a lot to catch up on Kylie's story, but I think it'd be really helpful for some of the other parents who might be on the call, walking this journey with a child who might be in high school. If we can talk about that point in Kylie's life, and, really having to see her give up so many activities that meant the world to her and suffer with those debilitating symptoms during the high school years. Looking back, what advice would you offer to other parents who might be in that similar situation?
Yeah, so much advice. It was a huge learning curve for all of us. And, you know, when it's your child and they can't really articulate everything and we know nothing, I'm going to say that the best thing we did is just keep trying to find the proper help. Just before I got on, I quickly looked back. I have notes. My daughter's file is this big. She had over 61 doctor visits in the year of 2018, and that didn't include high school visits. It was the most stressful time in our lives, not having, and I've heard this and I feel so repetitive, lack of information, lack of support, lack of understanding. Most of the providers that we went to were in a small town, so you know we were pretty limited, and you have to kind of follow your health insurance guidelines. Everything was about anxiety and depression because that's exactly what was going on with her, and that was the focus. Sure, she filled out the concussion paperwork every day, answered the questions, but at that age, you may not want to answer everything truthfully because where do you want to be? You want to be back in school and you want to be back doing sports. And so my advice is we didn't find proper care for her until after 2 years, and she had already suffered another concussion. I will say, do not give up. Validate your child's symptoms. That was so hard because I had one view on what was happening and my husband had a different view. And we clashed on a daily basis. Daily. So I would say, and I don't mean to make it sound this way, don't give up on your child. And there were days that we felt like giving up on ourselves. And that guilt that the moms feel of their own, you know, stuff with their own children is the same as a mom as you're watching your child and you don't feel like you're doing enough at all. And you are up against the school, you're up against the providers. So don't give up, advocate, validate their symptoms, and lots of patience.
Yeah, that's great advice. Great advice, Tammy. And I know more specifically, I'm wondering if you offer advice. We hear often and we talk about this experience as athletes and what that's like trying to return to sport, but a really big challenge for so many kids as well is that returning to learn portion of it. And so I'm curious, you know, having walked through this all through Kylies high school years and now she's at college, which is so amazing. And I know there's challenges that come with that too. What have you learned about being an advocate for your child in education?
In our situation, it was extremely difficult. And, you know, at the time, she couldn't advocate for herself because her symptoms were so debilitating. She was out of school and ended up missing her entire sophomore year. And IEPs, 504s, things we had no idea. So everything that we went into, we went in blind. We went in blind to concussions. We went in blind to IEPs, 504s. Everything was just blind. And so, and all these things coming at you, it was so overwhelming. Meanwhile, you're trying to take care of your daughter's health. We were told that she was diagnosed as being school refusal. So we had that whole battle. They were going to call the court systems. I mean, it was so hard. And at the time you want to believe what they're telling you. Like, oh, really? Is my child refusing school? No, all she wanted to do was be in school. She wanted to be with her friends and she wanted to be playing sports. So hearing that only angered her and confused us, but we had to trust what we were being told. But I knew in my gut something wasn't right. And so her journey at school was really hard. Kind of like what Marie was saying and Allison, we were super social people and we just cocooned into zero. It was just us three. And my oldest daughter was off at college, which was really a blessing because life at home was not great. And so your daughter's isolating, we're isolating, we don't trust. It was just the perfect storm. I have a teenage girl who's hormonal plus concussion, and it just snowballed. And so they put her in an out of district placement. So she became even more isolated from the community. And we had to get her travel an hour each way to this school. But the good news is, as she was healing, and once we found proper care through Dr. Robert Cantu, thank goodness, she then did 3 years of high school in 2 years, because her ultimate goal for herself was to graduate on time, meaning what she had in her brain. It was the only thing she had to hold on to of her high school career, because she no longer identified as an athlete. Her identity, she has a new identity now, and she still struggles with it. She's only 20, and you know, things keep evolving. So yeah, it was a difficult journey for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So challenging with that identity piece for all of us. And so can only imagine, I would always say, I just like get chills thinking about if my experience would have happened in high school. I just don't know how I would have been able to cope. And Kylie's such an inspiration, and you and your husband as well, as how you were able to support her to get through that time. And I know one thing that was helpful that we saw a little bit in the video is being connected to Carrie and Aaron and kind of having that peer support. You know, we heard Marie and Allison really talk about their support group. We also really want to share with people the one-on-one peer connections that we're able to make. I'm wondering if you could just speak to that and what that experience was like. And we know now you're on the other side of it, being able to be a peer support volunteer for other families as well, which is so amazing, and would love to hear any insights you have on that.
Yeah, this is pretty powerful. The helpline and Carrie and connecting. And normally I have a box of Kleenex here, because I think until, I don't know, I don't think I'll ever stop crying. That connection saved my daughter's life. And that's no exaggeration. It was so hard to tell my story and to reach out, and that whole like vulnerability and actually admitting that we were in trouble. My husband and I weren't okay, like nothing was okay. And I no longer knew how to help my daughter. And meeting Carrie and Aaron was like, I saw Kylie's whole body just go, wow, there's somebody else like me. It saved her life. So I wholeheartedly just give the helpline to everyone. Like, just the minute I hear that they've had a concussion, I'm like, don't wait. Because the longer that that clock is ticking, the longer the symptoms, the trauma, the everything, you want to get help as soon as possible. It's okay to reach out. It's okay. You don't have to go like full in, but I cannot, where CLF has come in just the few years, I think we connected in like 2019 or 2020, is phenomenal. Just this webinar alone, I never thought I'd be sitting on this side ever. I saw the vision, I saw light at the end of the tunnel, but when you're in it, it's pretty narrow, and it's dark, and it's sad, and it's depressing. And when Kylie got her 4th concussion this past October at school, I went into that dark hole all over again, all over. However, I knew it was different this time, because we have the support, we have the tools, and we have the proper care. And yes, there were times in my daughter's journey that she said, no more doctors, no more visits, no more anything. And I was done too. Like, I got it. But you have to keep going. Because once you find that group, whether it's support groups or a provider that connects, that makes that healing journey so profound. So yes, this 4th concussion, like, it all came back, all the feels, scared, lonely, sad, mad. But I knew how to jump in. I knew who to call. I knew what we needed to do. We didn't have that the first 4 years. Well, we did eventually, but. So the helpline support, it's really, really crucial in the healing journey for the caregiver and or the patient. I can't say enough about it. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Tammy. And that's really good advice for other caregivers. And we appreciate you sharing that. And obviously I remember in real time when I heard about Kylie's fourth concussion, just like feeling absolutely gutted for her and your whole family. And I do know that you have some exciting news to share, though, for people who might have just heard that Kylie is continuing to be that amazing, resilient child.
I do. So that fourth concussion, it's October of her fall semester as a sophomore nursing student. She had to take 4 incompletes. They actually tried to convince her to do a leave of absence, multiple administrators. She said no. Nope, not doing it. I've been in summer school since 8th grade. I will do what I have to do to get through this. I'm doing it. So her spring semester, she had 7 courses. So she had her 4 incompletes and plus 3 new. And she just finished Friday with all A's and B's.
Yay, Kylie.
She was a ball of stress last week. It was so crazy. And unfortunately continued just peers not understanding her, and still she isolates, still she's on her own. It's so hard, and I don't want to go down that area right now, but she's amazing. So yeah, it is not easy. It's a hard journey. It's hard to advocate, and that girl has learned how to advocate at age 20 long before I did. She now understands what she needs to do in life to be heard. And so those are the positives that are coming out of this really long, hard journey. Yeah.
Well, we are cheering her on and will continue to do so, and your entire family. And I just thank you for being vulnerable with us today and sharing your story and continuing to be such a strong advocate and helping other caregivers who might be at the beginning in this journey right now. So I'm sure hearing from you.
I'll always give back, because that's just that. Even Kylie, when she's well enough, she mentors as well. And that was our promise, always. So we're here.
Well, we are very grateful for you, and thank you again for joining us on the webinar today. Thank you, Tammy. I want to make sure we are conscious of everyone's time, but our last guest today is actually from the CLF team. As we've discussed, we touched on the support groups that we offer. Tammy just shared a bit about our connection program, and we've talked about the helpline as well, but I really want to join or have one of our CLF helpline coordinators join us. Trisha Ruiz is going to walk us through a little bit more in detail about, if you've never heard of the helpline, what that can look like to reach out and some of the different support that our patient caregiver services team offers. So Trisha, I'll let you take it away, and thank you for being here.
Thank you, Julia, and hello to everyone joining us for this important conversation today. Like Julia mentioned, my name is Trisha, and I joined CLF in 2022 as a helpline coordinator. I am a mom, and I have been a caregiver for a child with PCS and a spouse with a TBI. So I do understand the importance of today's topic, and I thank each one of you for showing up. In my role on the CLF helpline, I work with patients and caregivers, starting the process of connecting them with the resources that they need. And we know that each person's experience with brain injury is unique. So that's why we have a wide range of resources that we offer to each client that reaches out to us through the CLF helpline. Since our launching of the CLF helpline in 2019, we have worked with over 6,000 patients and caregivers with their concerns about concussion symptoms, post-concussion syndrome, or suspected CTE. Our team can help you find doctors or specialists in your area or located nearest you that understand the challenges that you or your loved one are facing and going through. For many people, including Tammy and her daughter Kylie, it can be beneficial, as these women have shared today, to speak with someone who has been in your shoes and know what you're going through as a patient or as a caregiver. And through the CLF helpline, we connect you with a support group such as the Concussed Moms, where you'll meet Allison and Marie, or we can also facilitate a peer support connection for a one-on-one partnership to help you as well along your journey. We also have a very expansive library of educational resources, including a caregiver guidebook for PCS or suspected CTE. We also provide these guidebooks, they're PDF printable, to patients and the caregivers as well, so they can give those, share with their loved ones the information. And also the CLF group, we also offer Facebook groups for both PCS resources as well as resources for those concerned about CTE. So if you or know someone who could benefit from these free programs or services that we offer through the CLF helpline, we're more than happy to get started on making a plan that fits for their needs individually. We're here to help at clfhelpline.org.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Trisha. And we're so lucky to have Trisha and the other members of our patient and caregiver services on our team. Like Trisha mentioned, you can schedule a phone call with Trisha directly, and she's just so warm and kind, and we'll really make sure that you get everything you need and anything that we're able to offer. We try to go above and beyond and want to help in any way we can. So please reach out to the helpline team, share that with anyone in your life that might benefit from it. And we're here to help in any way we can, like we said. So thank you, Trisha. Thank you once again to Allison, Marie, and Tammy again for being here. I know that it is not easy to have to relive some of those really dark times. So thank you for your bravery and your courage and your vulnerability, for sharing with everyone today to be that positive light for people who might need it. So we are so grateful for you. And we hope anyone who attended today and anyone watching on demand, as we'll upload this recording, really has a better understanding of how we can support anyone suffering brain injuries, especially the mothers in our lives, which are so important. So again, remember, if you or a loved one is struggling with concussion or PCS symptoms, free helpline is here for you. We hope to hear from you. We don't hope to hear from you because we hope you're not suffering, but if you are, we want you to know that we're here for you. So thank you again, everyone, so much, and happy Mother's Day to the 4 amazing mothers that I'm looking at, and to everyone else who has joined us today. So thank you all, and take care.